I'm going to be your comic entertainment, sort of, because you guys were serious speakers, Ken and Lauren, so thank you for what you had to say. I don't know all of you, and I'm new to the the allergy and asthma group and all that Maeve is doing. I've known her for a number of years, but with the children that I deal with. I'm a mother first. I'm the executive director of P.A.N.D.A.S Network. We're a national organization, and we now have branches all over the world. My philosophy 11 years ago when my son got sick was that community is the beginning and basis of everything. That every person deserves hope, every person needs to feel confidence, and everybody needs to feel dignity in their life. So in 2007, my son got very ill overnight. He was 7 years old, and a really healthy, normal kid, nothing unusual. And he had a complete and utter personality change. Hysterical, OCD, terrors, hallucinations, many difficult things. And it eventually began to develop into neurological difficulties. How many of you have heard of PANDAS? Have you heard of that acronym before? So it stands for Pediatric Autoimmune Neuropsychiatric Disease associated with strep throat bacteria. I had never heard of this before. Very few people in the world had heard of this before 2007. One doctor, a pediatrician at the National Institute of Health, had discovered in 1986 a small group of children in Rhode Island, 15 children, who had a complete and utter personality change after a strep throat infection. I didn't know her in 2007, and it was a small paper. At any rate, I was in my home, and my son was flipping out. I didn't understand what was happening, but I've got my first computer that was in my own home. I'd never had a computer in my home before, and I just started typing and trying to figure out what could be happening to him. I live next to Stanford University, and I went in the stacks and started researching everything I could about autoimmunity as a possibility and the connection to the brain. The reason I'm explaining all of this to you is that 11 years ago, the theory of autoimmunity attacking the brain psychiatrically, or depression, or schizophrenia, or bipolar, or intense anxiety issues was not really discussed. So, like Ken and Lauren, I decided that my heart, that each of us is something essential of the universe. Each of us is magic. So I started to send out a message like a rainbow, just imagining my heart was a rainbow across the world. And I started asking every human being I knew about autoimmunity and psychiatric issues. Eventually what happened was I discovered that there were 6 other children in my neighborhood that were suffering from this. And with Stanford University, I should say my father was a researcher at Stanford, so I grew up around research and understood that you had to persist when you had a new idea. With those 6 other families, we started to realize that there was an infectious causation. So one of my, I lived near Mark Zuckerberg at the time, and he encouraged me, he's not my best friend, but he at that time encouraged me to put up a website. So I did. And I thought no one would ever look at it. And within 1 month, we had 100 patients, and then 100 more, and 100 more people saying they had children like this that were similar across the United States. At any rate, what ended up developing was a national nonprofit, much to my chagrin. I really didn't want to do that. But what we've discovered now is that this type of syndrome is happening all around the world. We have about 20,000 patients. And I'm really happy to report to you tonight. It took 11 years. I started at 43 years old, and now I'm not that anymore. I'm not. I can't believe it anyways. It's a shock. But 11 years, and my second child developed this illness also. And I discovered that intravenous immunoglobulin would heal my son. It started healing many, many children, but it's off-label. And as all of you know, as doctors, pharmaceutical representatives, and patients, when you have something off-label or chronic, you're always defending yourself, and it takes courage, every day. But at any rate, I'm happy to report that we've been able to create a consortium of doctors at Stanford and Harvard and Yale and Georgetown, and there's only 1 or 2 doctors in those major institutions that are interested in this. It's not enough patients. But at any rate, I just was at Cornell. The gift of a horrible illness or a difficult illness is that you get to go into the dark spaces of the world that most people don't get to go into, and see light and prisms and beauty in a way that is so unique to your journey. So I was able to go to Cornell, which I didn't even, never heard of Cornell. Well, I kind of did, but a decade ago. It's exciting to be able to meet all of these doctors. And for the first time, they acknowledged that this illness was really clinically a real illness. Some doctors from Europe came, the Netherlands, Turkey, Sweden, and we're going to be able to start doing more global research with our children. And the last thing I was going to say is that one of the most difficult things, I think, with a chronic illness is that sometimes we feel stigmatized. I don't know if anybody feels like that. But I think that everybody in here are amazing warriors and really important souls for this universe that is often very dark. That maybe we're really strong people. That's why these things have happened to us. And the last thing I was going to say was that criticism is often something that give someone who's got a chronic illness, or you're tired, or you don't know how to take care of your family or yourself very well. And I found a really cool quote from Aristotle the other day, and he said, "There is only one way to avoid criticism, and that is to say nothing and be nothing and do nothing." So I don't want to be that person, and I know none of us do. And thank you so much for listening to my amazing journey, and thank you for being here. I just really appreciate it.